Hello, boys and girls. Mr. Parcher back with you. Today we are going to tackle areas of complex shapes. And all it really means is we're going to have like rectangles and triangles smashed together, or we're going to have like rectangles with pieces cut out of them or something like that. And, how do you find the area of this? If you were going to find the area of a rectangle, it would just be base times height. And that would be fairly simple here. You would just have these calculations to do. It would be one side times the other, and it would be 15 times 25. But there's a chunk cut out. So I need you to figure out what you would do with that while we're paused. All right, some of you boys and girls might have thought, well, I would just subtract this. That's true. You could figure out what this is and just subtract it. Now, I was drawing these freehand. It doesn't look as neat, but I was intending for this to be square. And once I say that this is a square figure here that's cut out here, immediately some of you should have thought, well, all the sides are 5. So it'd be 5 times 5 to find the area here. This is actually 25 centimeters squared, because its area is base times height. You can call whichever one of these the base you want and the other one the height. So that's 25 centimeters squared. Well, the biggest problem is that try to figure out the rest. Some people might say, well, you could figure out this part and you could do 5 times 15 and then you could figure out this part. Yeah, sure. But it would be a lot easier just to subtract this. Because if you connected this, that would be one large rectangle, 15 and 25. So if I just think of it like that, and I just do that calculation, 15 and 25 centimeters. Now, as you can go ahead and pause and try and see if you can figure out how to figure out the area of this part here. Okay, welcome back, boys and girls. I hope you tried to figure it out. You really should subtract. So this is that whole area, including the missing piece. 15 times 25, you could figure that out on your own if you'd like. Actually, I'd like to do partial products. 10 times 25 is 250, and then 5 times 25 is 125. So that would be 375. So that area is 375. But the problem is this 25 centimeter chunk is cut out of it. So some of you might be thinking, well, I should subtract that 50 centimeters squared out of it. And that's true. And it's 350 centimeters squared. So I'll take you through the problem again. This was altogether 375 centimeters cubed, because I took 15 times 25, base times height, or height times base, whichever way you want to look at it. The whole thing is 375. This chunk cut out is 25. 25, and I should have subtracted that here. I wrote 50 because I was thinking the answer was 350. So I subtract 25 because this is 5 times 5. This 25 centimeters squared is cut out of there. So then I have 350 left. This part is 350 because this 25 is cut out. All right, I'll come back with some more. Take those notes and I'll come back with more. All right, boys and girls, take a few minutes to jot down this figure. I know it might not be perfectly to scale, but just trust the measurements and just say that that's what it is. I didn't measure it precisely. You can get it down, and then we're going to find the area of this whole figure. Pause if you need more time. All right, boys and girls, welcome back. You have a figure, and some of you might say, well, it's 3 different shapes. This is like a rectangle. This might be rectangular or square, depending on the way you're looking at it, or this might be, and this is definitely a triangle. So there are three put together. So they're added, three shapes added together. And you might say, well, to find the area of the whole thing, then I should find the area of each piece and then add it together. And that's true. So I have some that are the easiest. Go ahead and try and figure out areas if you can. Pause. See if you can figure out these areas. Of course, I will figure them out for you. But it's a lot more powerful if you can do it yourself. And the more you can do yourself, the better off you are. I'll remind you the area of a rectangle. I'm not going to do the calculations here because they're pretty straightforward. I made the numbers kind of easy. Is base times height. Oops, sorry. I hate these kind of pencils. Area of a rectangle is base times height, and the area of a triangle is half the base times height. So half the base times height. So go ahead and give it a shot. See what you get. All right, boys and girls, pause at any time if you think you can move ahead of me. It's more powerful if you do it yourself. First thing I would do is the easiest part. I think this rectangle is the easiest part. You can do that now if you think. Base times height, 4 times 2, 8 centimeters squared. Got that one pretty easy. Now the next one's a little bit harder because you're like, well, I know what this is. It's 10. So I know the other side's 10. I'm not sure what these sides are. But if you look carefully, this is 4. The rest of it is 3. Some of you might already know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to add these together. When you add these together, this whole side becomes 7. 4 and 3 is 7. Over here, this side must be 7 also. And I'll even write it there just to make it easier for you to understand. So that side must be 7 centimeters. So whether you're thinking of this side being 7 centimeters or this side being 7 centimeters, it doesn't really matter because it's 7 times 10 because it's base times height. That's a rectangle. 7 times 10, 70 centimeters squared. Remember, pause and move ahead of me if you can. Now you might see the triangle. And you might say, oh, okay, that's 3 times 7, but you can't do that. You have to have half. So half the base times height. Some of you are thinking, oh, well, it's half of the base, which is 3 times 7. It could be. So you could say 1.5 is half of 3. And then 7 times 7, so 1.5 times 7, whatever that is. You might want to do a fraction. You could do a fraction. You could do this just by multiplying a decimal. What I would do is just put the decimal place in. I would say 15 times 7. So I would say 15 times 7 is actually 105. And I know that because 7 times 10, or 7 times 10 would be 70, and 7 times 5 would be 35. Add those together. 70 and 35 is 105. And then I put the decimal, that'd be 10.5, because I want one decimal place. 105 becomes 10.5. Or you could think of it truly how it is. It's 7 times 1. There's 7 ones. It's 7. And then 7 halves. 7 halves would be 3.5. And then 3.5 plus 7 would be 10.5. Or you could do it the fraction way. You could have 3 halves times 7 equals 21 halves. And then you can divide. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. Any way you want to figure that out, this is 10.5 centimeters squared. So now remember, we're not done. We were trying to find the area of all of it. The area of all of it. And what were we supposed to do at the end? Take these 3 different figures that are kind of mushed together and add them all up. So you've got 8 centimeters plus 70 plus 10 and a half. Some of you already know where I'm going with this. Move ahead of me, please. Pause if you need to. Think about it for a little bit. So yes, add them all together. 70 plus 8 is 78. 78 plus 10 is 88. Plus a half is 88 and a half centimeters squared. All right, I hope that helped, boys and girls. Your Khan Academy assignment is up, will be up, I should say. It's going to be simpler than a lot of these, but it's mostly just going to be rectangles. But you remember, if there's a missing piece, subtract that area from the whole bigger piece. I'm sorry, I was showing you the top part, but you couldn't see it. If it's a missing piece like this one was, you got the whole big rectangle, and then there's a missing piece. You subtract that one. If you've got figures put together, well, it's adding. So you're going to add them all up once you figure out each individual one. And remember, you can figure out their areas. Base times height for a rectangle, triangles, half of the base times height. All right, have a great day.